Hello dear listener, please subscribe to our channel. Enjoy watching. You ever wake up one day and realize your life isn't yours? That was me, Adam McAllister, husband, engineer, and, I thought, lucky man. I had the kind of life people dream of, a steady job, a nice home in the suburbs, and a wife, Claire, who could have been mistaken for a movie star. She had this glow about her, this confidence that could make a room go quiet. For 8 years, I believed I was the luckiest guy alive. Turns out, I was the world's biggest fool. It started small. Little changes that were so easy to dismiss. Claire started coming home late, always with the same excuse, work. I never questioned it. Why would I? She was dedicated to her career, a rising star in her marketing firm. I chalked it up to her being the ambitious woman I fell in love with. Then there was her phone. She was never one of those people glued to a screen, but suddenly, she couldn't go 5 minutes without it. Texts at odd hours. A laugh when no one else was in the room. Just work stuff, she'd say with that radiant smile. I wanted to believe her. Hell, I needed to believe her. But the perfume was what did it. Her favorite scent, the one I bought her every Christmas, started disappearing faster than ever. And it wasn't just that she wore it more often. Some nights, when she came home late, I could swear it wasn't hers at all. It was something sharper, muskier, *male star. I brushed it off for weeks, pretending everything was fine. But pretending doesn't change reality. And reality hit me hard one Wednesday night. Claire walked through the door wearing a red dress, the one I loved, the one she hadn't worn for me in months. Her makeup was flawless, her hair perfect. She claimed she'd been out with coworkers for drinks, celebrating a big project win. She kissed me on the cheek, and that's when I smelled it, cologne. Not mine. Something inside me snapped. I didn't confront her, I wasn't ready. Instead, I smiled, asked about her night, and poured her a glass of wine. She didn't notice my hand shaking as I handed it to her. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling while she slept beside me. My gut screamed that something was wrong. I needed proof. Without it, I'd just be the paranoid husband imagining things. The next morning, I told her I had to leave for a work trip, an out-of-town conference in Cincinnati. How long? She asked, barely looking up from her phone. 3 days, I replied. She smiled and kissed me goodbye like nothing was wrong. Like she hadn't just gutted me with her indifference. I drove 2 blocks, parked, and waited. Following someone you love feels like the ultimate betrayal. But by that point, I didn't care. I needed the truth. I tailed her car to a steakhouse downtown, the fancy kind we used to go to for anniversaries. She parked, and minutes later, he arrived. He was tall, sharply dressed, with the kind of confidence you can't buy. Claire greeted him with a smile I hadn't seen in months. He leaned in and kissed her cheek. She didn't pull away. I sat in my car, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. Part of me wanted to burst in, demand an explanation, maybe throw a punch. But what would that accomplish? No, I needed more. If Claire wanted to play dirty, I'd outplay her. The next few weeks were a crash course in surveillance. I followed her when I could, hired a private investigator when I couldn't. The results were worse than I imagined. Her lover was Greg Walters, a real estate broker with a reputation for being a charmer and a homewrecker. Divorced twice, no kids, living in a downtown penthouse. He was everything I wasn't, flashy, arrogant, and full of himself. Claire wasn't just cheating. She was building a second life with him. Text messages, late-night rendezvous, even a weekend business trip to Chicago, everything was meticulously planned. And me? I was just the idiot husband funding her double life. But I wasn't an idiot anymore. I spent weeks crafting a plan. This wasn't going to be some angry confrontation. No, that would be too easy. I wanted Claire and Greg to feel the weight of their betrayal. I wanted to leave a mark they couldn't wash away. First, I infiltrated Greg's life. I posed as a potential client, calling his office to discuss selling my house. Greg fell for the act immediately. We met in his sleek, glass-walled office, where he bragged about his success while barely listening to what I wanted. I played dumb, asked all the right questions, and by the end of the meeting, he was inviting me out for drinks. He had no idea who I really was. Meanwhile, I turned my attention to Claire. I planted subtle seeds of doubt, a misplaced earring, her favorite lipstick missing, a text message that mysteriously disappeared. She started to unravel, questioning herself, questioning me. Every time she asked if something was wrong, I'd smile and say, "Of course not." But the cameras were the real key. Tiny, discreet, and hidden all over our house. Every touch, every kiss, every whispered word between her and Greg was recorded. The footage was both a dagger to my heart and the ammunition I needed. The night of my final move, I told Claire I was working late. Greg came over, as I knew he would. I watched everything on my phone from a parked car down the street. When they finally left the house, I slipped inside and gathered my things. Half my closet was empty by the time Claire got home. She called me in a panic, her voice shaking as she left voicemail after voicemail. I didn't answer. Instead, I was busy preparing for the poker night I'd invited Greg to. He thought it was a casual hangout with new friends. It was anything but. At the game, I laced Greg's drink with a mild sedative. Nothing dangerous, just enough to make him feel off. By the time the game ended, he was slurring his words and struggling to stand. I offered to drive him home, and he gratefully accepted. But I didn't take him home. I took him to a remote cabin I'd rented under a fake name. Inside, I'd set up a little surprise, every screen in the house playing the footage of him and Claire on a loop. I left him there with a bottle of water, his phone, and a note that read, "Enjoy the show." Claire's reckoning came the next morning. She woke up to find the divorce papers on the kitchen table, along with a USB drive containing all the evidence. I'd already sent copies to her parents, her best friend, and, most importantly, her boss. Those business trips to Chicago? Yeah, her HR department didn't love hearing about those. When I returned to the house to collect the last of my things, Claire was standing on the porch, crying. She begged me to talk, to forgive her, to give her another chance. I didn't say a word. I just rolled down my car window and smiled. "Hope he was worth it," I said, then drove away. Months later, I heard Greg had lost his job and his reputation. Claire was living with her parents, trying to rebuild her shattered life. And me? I was free. Free from the lies, the betrayal, the weight of a life built on sand. People ask if I regret what I did. My answer is always the same, not for a second. Because some stains can't be washed away. And that, my friend, is the perfect revenge. If you leave a comment, tell us what you think about the story you heard. It's important to us and will help us find and tell stories that you find interesting. Thank you for watching us.